Hi folks, this is Jay. Hope you're okay. I just want to talk about this book. It's called The Islamic Threat. John L. Esposito. John L. Esposito is Professor of Religion and International Affairs and Director of the Center for Muslim and Christian Understanding at Georgetown University. He has served as President of the Middle Eastern Studies Association and as a consultant to the State Department, Editor-in-Chief of the Oxford Encyclopedia of the Modern Islamic World. So he's a top academic. It's a little bit out of date because it was before 9/11. It's by Oxford University Press. But I read this while I was on retreat, and I just want to talk about the book, what it's been saying, and I just want to reflect on the book just for a minute. Proper academic material, properly scholarly discussion, not like these nutjob militant atheists like Non-Stamp Collector and Thunderfoot and Aaron Ra and all these fools that don't discuss scholarly works or anything like that, but just make silly videos trying to pawn people. The more sophisticated, clever, jazzy kind of videos that they make, really, there's nothing to them. You know, never trust anybody who can make snazzy, jazzy kind of cool videos with all the flashy technology, because it's an age of a lack of content, and Thunderfoot and Aaron Ryan, all these people, they really do lack content, and these militant atheists think that these people are spouting content, and you know, half of them don't even know what they're talking about. I mean, last night I was listening to Atheist Experience talking, and the hosts were completely useless. I mean, they were really useless. They hadn't got a clue what they were talking about. I mean, they're really clueless. So I mean, let's get it right. I mean, you can go on this channel and you can find loads of videos where books, academic books, are discussed, and also good solid researched articles, hundreds and hundreds of stuff all over this channel. Okay, and here's another one. So we're looking at this professor on Islam, and we're just going to discuss what he said, and where we go from there. I'm just going to relate it to Islam, atheism and Christianity. First of all, what's his thesis? His thesis, to me, it seems to be that the Islamic world has always felt that the West has been interfering within its culture. So he talks about the Crusades, and he talks about how the Crusades were seen by the Muslim world as sort of a sense of what the West was about, which was decadent, which was brutal, which was interfering in in Islamic civilization. Then he talks about the colonial period, where there was the expansion of France and Britain, and you know, the British Empire, etc., and talks about how the Muslim world's confidence was kind of disintegrated because the Ottoman Empire was broken up after the First World War, which was an Islamic kind of empire, and it was broken up by Britain and France and their allies, and this kind of give again the Muslim world a sense that the West is interfering, a sense of the Muslim world's powerlessness, and you know, the Muslim world struggling with that issue. Then the third part of the book is he talks about Israel and Jerusalem, and the founding of Israel and the founding of Jerusalem in the early 1940s. And again, he was saying that was another sense of the Muslim world feeling the West had interfered in its culture, and a profound sense of crisis within the Muslim world, especially when they had the Six-Day War with Israel and the whole shenanigans of that time. The sense again of the Muslim world feeling a loss of confidence, etc. So that's kind of a feel of the book, of what is kind of like painted a picture. I think that, you know, this was before 9/11, but you can see that a 9/11 was going to happen by reading this book, because you could see that the Muslim world was losing confidence. You could see the power of the power of Iran interfering in the Middle East. For example, Hezbollah was inspired and backed up, financed, and I think was actually set up by Iran. And you could see how the Muslim world was fractured, the Muslim world was struggling with its identity, and that there would be these offshoot kind of groups that would form and begin to engage in kind of terrorist acts against the West. So that's a kind of rough synopsis of the book. It kind of went in 3 stages, looking at the Crusade, the colonial period, and then Israel. And this is a top Oxford, this is a top academic, I mean world famous academic. It's Oxford University Press, you can't get better than that. And I read this in a day, you know. That's typical me, that's typical stuff that I do, you know. So these atheists, they make me laugh. Sorry about this. So where do we go from here? Well, first of all, this crisis with Islam is going to continue. This crisis of identity and the crisis of a sense of being interfered by the West. I mean, since this book, we had 9/11, then we had the Iraqi war, the Afghan war, etc. And it looks like we're going to have the war in Iran will be coming pretty soon, I think. So you're going to have this crisis, and I think within that crisis there is something that is important to realise, is that Islam ideologically as a meta-narrative is very, very strong. I think the 3 strongest meta-narratives in the West is Islam, is Christianity, atheism, and maybe and Judaism. There's 4. And because it's got a strong meta-narrative, as Western culture deteriorates, I think that we will see a resurgence of power, political power, and social upheaval in the West because of Islam, along with a lot more terrorism, because even though there'll be this resurgence of Islam in the West, Islam in the Middle East will still feel powerless because of the situation with Israel. So there will be lots of these groups that will try to undermine the West from a jihadist perspective. So I think what I get from this is that we are heading for a lot of political instability and upheaval, and I think Islam is going to fill the vacuum, but also there's going to be a lot of turmoil with that. The other thing as well, in terms of atheism, I just don't think atheism or secularist. I know you say atheism and secularism are not the same, but to me the two peas in the same pod. But the secularist and the atheist are not going to be strong enough to take on Islam. When Islam begins to resurge in the West, it's not got the intellectual firepower or ability to take on Islam. And also, you know, the atheists are going to be outnumbered 10,000 to 1. You know, so Western culture, Western civilization is going to be slowly but surely taken over by a resurgence of Islam in the West. But it's going to be by an Islam that is not really confident deep down, because it won't be fully sure of itself because of the Israeli-Palestine question. For the Muslim world, that is a major humiliation. So there will be jihadists all around the world still trying to make an Islamic world that is great again, that is on top, that is proud. So the only hope really is a resurgence of Christianity. That is the only strongest meta-narrative that can take on Islam. And what's important is that Western politicians come back to Christianity. Writers, philosophers, musicians, journalists come back to Christianity. So I would encourage you to read C.S. Lewis, I would encourage you to read Francis Schaeffer, I would encourage you to read the Dutch Reformed theologians Herman Bavinck and Kuyper. Get onto Desiring God Ministries, get onto R.C. Sproul's Legionnaire Ministries, Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones Recording Trust. So if you're an academic, if you're a person who's concerned about this resurgence of Islam, get onto those sites. They'll really help you and answering Islam. So there needs to be a resurgence, an urgent resurgence of the West back to Christianity, because as Islam grows in strength in the West, Sharia law will be brought in and democracy will begin to be clamped down on. It's as simple as that. So it's imperative that a resurgence of the West comes back to Christianity. Absolutely imperative, because atheism and secularism has not got the strength. Secularism is extremely weak at the moment. It's weak. It's not got any intellectual justification, because it doesn't realise that the economic situation is on the verge of collapse, and the states are receding in their influence and power, and that's because of the lack of ideological strength of the secularism. And the atheist, they're often a mixed bag of kind of weird, strange individuals who have blog TV shows and thingy, and their influence is waning. You know, people are getting tired of their kind of activism. People are really just not interested in that. Unless you're a narrow-minded bigot, then you'll be interested in their kind of rhetoric. But apart from that, no one's really interested. There's a lot of apathy. So we need a resurgence of Christianity in the West. The second thing is that we need to realise is the nuclear question is pretty frightening, because, you know, academics and scholars and political pundits are all saying that any moment now Pakistan's nuclear capability could be interfered with, that Islamic extremists could take and steal a bomb. Now if that happens, then we're in terrible mess, and that's probably likely to happen. And a lot of academics and political pundits are absolutely scared stiff about this. And there's a lot of debate going on, not just in public but behind the scenes by politicians, and they're really scared about this. And also the nuclear proliferation with North Korea and possible Iran. We are heading for a major crisis. And I think one of the things that needs to be done is for peace and understanding. You know, for a lot more peace, a lot more reaching out to Muslims and Christians and Jews in the Middle East and building bridges. And I think this sort of atheist attack is not going to be helpful in that kind of scenario, when you need to build bridges of understanding people and understanding cultures and trying to get people to communicate and talk. And I think that is something that we need to do much more of urgently. Need to get Christians, Muslims and Jews together in those areas, talking to each other and trying to understand each other, because if we don't, we are in absolute dire straits, because there is going to be a bomb stolen from Pakistan sooner or later. They've already, the Al-Qaeda have already infiltrated military bases and attacked them at will. So, in other words, it's not looking good, folks. It's looking pretty bleak, unless we get our act together in promoting peace. And unless there's a resurgence in the West of Christianity, then things are looking pretty bad in the future, mate. So that's the book. Google his name, have a look at his work. But yeah, I love reading scholarly books like this, and opens your mind, expands your mind, and that's what it's all about. So come on, you narrow-minded, bigoted atheist out there, get some scholarship reading and open your mind to bigger things, folks. Take care now, and God bless.